So this was the first time I had to do a carb rebuild on my motorcycle. For the life of me, I couldn't get it to start, even whenever I had the choke fully open. And after reading some forums, I was able to determine that the carb rebuild was pretty necessary. I ordered all the parts online, which only costed about 30 bucks. Let me see if I can find a receipt somewhere. But it turns out everything was pretty easy to remove. All I had to do was take off the tank, remove the air box, and then remove all of the bolts that secured the carburetor to the engine, in addition to all of the fuel lines that were attached from the tank to the carburetor. And while everything was open, I noticed that there were a couple vacuum lines that were actually cracked and maybe dry rotted, so I went ahead and ordered those parts online as well. Shout out to the long Phillips head screwdriver. I know everyone has one of those at home, but this one helped really just make this job so much easier because I had reach all around. I also had an issue where a bolt secured to the carburetor from the choke cable got stripped, so I had to remove the choke cable off altogether. But it worked out because I went ahead and ordered a new choke cable altogether because that was seized. Here I am going through the cleaning process of it. This took me probably about 50 minutes. I had to keep track of every small little needle and bolt and screw that was attached. It was an extremely tedious process, and my apartment smelled like gas for a couple of days. But I did learn a lot about the inner workings of a carburetor, so that was extremely useful. It took a lot of time and a lot of patience and a lot of scrubbing with a small can of choke and carb cleaner. I also watched quite a few YouTube videos and studied through forums to make sure I actually knew what I was doing. A lot of these things is the amount of turns out that you do on a screw. Make sure that you have the same amount of turns in. I actually talked to my motorcycle mechanic about it, and he was telling me that I'm better off doing it on my own if I've already cleaned it myself, because since it's so time consuming, he was going to have to charge me through the ear in labor, and so this was actually saving me money just being able to do it myself. As I mentioned before, I had that seized bolt that I had to extract with a screw extractor, and that was also a lifesaver. Now I just had to put everything back together the way I took it apart. Naturally, the process to put it together is much easier than removing it, but I made it a point to clean the area because at the time I thought, how often am I going to get into here? Which, surprise, surprise, I accidentally left it sitting for a few more months, and now I have to clean the carburetor again. This was something that I did maybe a year ago, and I'm just now finishing this video, and I got lazy, hadn't been using it again, and here I am having to go through this process. But I don't know if I'm going to film it this time, since I've already went through the process of talking about it. Anyways, back to this. I just put the tank back on, put the lid back through, attached to the choke cable, made sure that everything was in its correct spot, and just dealing with the satisfaction of this brand new hose being attached on there. It was a beautiful experience. I had to attach the fuel lines back on, put the choke cable back together, and then just lower and re-secure the tank. Definitely recommend for anybody who's a little bit mechanically savvy. This was an easy process.